first get a script, you're trying to figure out how this happens and then this happens and that happens. And we did a lot of plans of how the Hokkmudo, the female was coming through and she was going to get the bomb and she was going to lay the egg or the nest with all of the eggs, and that was going to be underneath San Francisco. And at the same time Godzilla turns up, and not meaning to, but knocks down Golden Gate Bridge and destroys a whole lot of ships, the naval ships, keeps coming through, and then there's a great fight and they knock down half the city, and then she's still there. And our hero, Aaron, has to make his way through with the team of other halo jumpers, because he is an expert, you know, he's an expert munitions guy, so he's trained in how to disarm munitions. And we know in the story that a clockwork mechanism has been put into this nuclear device so that it can't be affected by the magnetic or the EPIRB effect that the Hokkmudos have. So they have to make their way down into this underground, what we refer to as upside down Chinatown, because it happens in Chinatown where the nest is made. And so a lot of buildings had to fall in and they sort of ended up upside down. So in this huge set we had to have them come through a building and then down some stairs, past an 18-wheeler petrol tanker, past a sort of an image of the dragon on the ground to where the missile, which had been made for other scenes, is hanging, or the front part of it is left hanging. And Aaron and the team, they come through and they disarm, well they don't disarm it, but they get the nuclear warhead out of the missile, and the guys are carrying it back, and then Aaron's character has to, he realises that there's millions of these eggs, there's going to be millions or thousands at least of Hokkmudos around, or Mudos around before we know it. So he decides to destroy it. And so in so doing, he does two effects. He destroys the chances that the Mudos are going to get to reproduce by letting go the fuel in the petrol tank, which we see explode. But it also delays his departure long enough so that when he gets down to the boat, all of the guys who are on the boat who are going to move the nuclear warhead out to sea for it to blow up, luckily, well, they've sadly all been killed by the Mudo, but he gets there late enough to not be killed. So he gets there, he's able to start the boat, and of course, you know, he's virtually saved by Godzilla, because Godzilla has beaten the male. The females come down after the bomb, and Godzilla comes up and rips the head off the thing. So it's pretty cool, and you know, all of those elements are one thing to be written on a page, and then they get changed slightly. And Gareth had a really clear image in his mind how all of this was going to happen, and so then we had to figure out ways of, you know, in a visual sense, my job is to try and then help him, give him environments that can enable him to do it. Like to do the sequence with the boat took 2 boats. We managed to find 2 identical or near identical 60-metre long boats. They're huge boats. Well, they were big ex-Canadian rescue boats, I think, with big red hulls, and we made them like whale watching boats for San Francisco. And then one had to be undamaged and took that away, and then the other one had the top all ripped off it, so it was damaged. So it was, you know, it's kind of a process that's neat. But I think probably the most complex thing was to build this underground upside down Chinatown, which was a terrific set. They had to support this missile. The other thing then that happened, we pulled all that out, and we used a lot of structure that we had to make the bone set that was right at the beginning at the Philippines, where we see the doctors come into where they discover the egg, and then the other egg that's been broken open and has disappeared, and we see the sort of skeletal form of the Godzilla. Now, most of that is a visual effect, but we had to have a very big set that was like 300 feet long of bones, the vertebrae of the bones, and then the head, and there was a kind of like an ossobuco piece that they walked through right at the beginning. And by using the structure from the first set, it was very economical, so that was a really good thing to do, and it was also a very yeah, it was a kind of clever way of dealing with it. But those 2 sets were probably the most interesting ones to build.